Maya Chen stared at the small green light on her desk, its steady glow mocking her as she finished her third report of the day. It was only 11 a.m., and she had already completed what her colleagues seemed to stretch into 8 grueling hours. The office around her hummed with the quiet desperation of people pretending to work, each trapped behind their own glowing beacon of artificial productivity. She glanced around the sterile workspace at InnoCorp, watching her co-workers scroll through social media with the dedication of professional researchers. Some stared blankly at spreadsheets, others typed meaningless emails to fill the silence. But every single desk bore the same green light, glowing like a prison guard's watchful eye. Maya had been here 3 weeks, and the absurdity was driving her insane. She was a Stanford graduate with a mind built for efficiency, not theatrical busywork. Her programming skills could automate half the department's tasks, but instead she was forced to sit in this technological purgatory until exactly 5 p.m. The breaking point came when she watched Jennifer from accounting spend 20 minutes formatting a single paragraph. Maya's fingers twitched toward her light switch. Just turn it off, walk out, breathe some real air. What could possibly happen? The moment her light clicked off, the office fell silent. Keyboards stopped clacking. Even the air conditioning seemed to hold its breath. Maya stood up, grabbing her jacket, feeling oddly liberated by this simple act of rebellion. Then she heard the footsteps, heavy, deliberate, cutting through the silence like a blade. Mr. Harrison emerged from his corner office, his grey suit impeccable, his face carved from granite. At 62, he had the presence of a man who had never been questioned, never been challenged. Miss Chen. His voice was quieter than a whisper, but carried the weight of a thunderclap. Your light. He didn't need to say more. The entire office watched as Maya's hand trembled toward the switch. She had faced down venture capitalists and defended her thesis to Nobel laureates, but something in Harrison's eyes made her feel like a scolded child. I finished my work, she managed, hating how small her voice sounded. Harrison stepped closer, and she could smell his cologne mixed with something else. Fear. Not his fear, but the collective terror of 30 employees who had learned never to question the green light rule. Here, the light stays on until 5, no exceptions. His words carried decades of absolute authority. Turn it on. Maya's hand moved without her permission, clicking the switch. The green glow returned, and with it, her cage. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She researched labor laws, employee rights, corporate policies. Nothing explained the green light rule. It wasn't mentioned in her contract, the employee handbook, or any official documentation. The next morning, she tried a different approach. During lunch, she cornered Rebecca from HR, a woman who had been with the company for 8 years. The green lights, Maya began casually. Who came up with that system? Rebecca's sandwich stopped halfway to her mouth. We don't talk about that, she said, but her eyes darted nervously around the empty break room. Just follow the rule, Maya. Trust me on this one. Some things are better left alone. But it makes no sense. We could be so much more productive if... Productive? Rebecca's laugh was bitter. You think this is about productivity? Girl, you have no idea what you're talking about. Just keep your head down and your light on. Maya spent her lunch break in the company's digital archives, diving deep into folders most employees never accessed. InnoCorp had been founded in 2001, growing from a small tech startup to a mid-sized corporation. The early photos showed a different company entirely, vibrant and chaotic, with employees clustered around computers, collaborating freely. Then she found the old company newsletters from 2003 and 2004. Photo after photo featured the same young man, always smiling, always at the center of the action, Thomas Harrison. The name made her pause. Harrison's son? The resemblance was unmistakable, the same sharp jawline, the same intense eyes, but where the father's were cold steel, the son's burned with passion and joy. Thomas had been a programming prodigy. The newsletter articles gushed. At 25, he had designed 3 of the company's most successful software products. He worked 18-hour days, not because he was forced to, but because he loved the challenge. Colleagues described him as electric, infectious, the kind of person who made everyone around him want to be better. Maya found herself smiling at the photos until she noticed something disturbing. The articles about Thomas stopped abruptly in late 2004. She dug deeper, accessing older database entries that seemed forgotten by time. Finally, buried in a corrupted folder that took her 20 minutes to repair, she found a link to a local news article from November 15, 2004. Tragedy strikes local tech company. Founder's son dies from work-related exhaustion. Maya's blood turned to ice as she read. Thomas Harrison, 25, had been found dead at his desk on a Sunday morning. He had been working for 93 consecutive hours, trying to finish a project he believed would revolutionize the industry. The article was brief but devastating. It mentioned that his father, company founder Richard Harrison, had discovered the body. There was a quote from a colleague. Thomas lived and breathed this company. He thought sleep was for the weak. He used to joke that he'd rather die at his desk than live a boring life. Maya stared at her screen, her hands shaking. The timestamp on the article was November 15th, 2004. She quickly searched for the implementation date of the green light rule. November 22nd, 2004, exactly 1 week after Thomas's funeral. The pieces fell into place with horrible clarity. The green lights weren't about productivity or control. They were a desperate father's attempt to monitor life itself. Green meant breathing, present, alive. The rigid 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. schedule wasn't corporate tyranny. It was Richard Harrison's way of ensuring no one ever worked themselves to death again. Maya's heart pounded as she realized the truth. Every ridiculous rule, every moment of forced idleness, every green light glowing in the office was a monument to a father's guilt. That evening, as the office emptied and the green lights finally went dark, Maya found herself alone with Mr. Harrison. He was still at his desk, staring at a framed photo she had never noticed before. Thomas, young and brilliant, smiling at the camera with infinite possibility in his eyes. "You found it, didn't you?" Harrison's voice was different now, stripped of its commanding authority. "The article. I've been waiting 20 years for someone to ask the right questions." Maya approached slowly, like one might approach a wounded animal. "Mr. Harrison, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." He looked up, and for the first time she saw him not as the office tyrant, but as a broken father. "He was everything I wasn't," Harrison whispered. "Brilliant, passionate, alive in ways I never knew how to be. I built this company for him, you know. Everything was for him." Tears rolled down his weathered cheeks. "The night he died, I found 17 empty coffee cups on his desk. 17. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. His last email was sent at 3:47 a.m. asking me if I was proud of his work." Harrison's voice cracked. "I never got to tell him yes." Maya felt her own eyes fill with tears. "The green lights." "I couldn't sleep for months after the funeral," Harrison continued. "I kept imagining all the other young people who might push themselves too far. So I created the rule. Not to punish anyone, but to save them. Every green light is my way of saying, you're alive, you're safe, you're going home tonight." The weight of 20 years of misunderstood grief settled in the space between them. Maya understood now why nobody questioned the rule. Somehow, instinctively, they all knew it was sacred. "He would have hated this," Harrison said, gesturing at the silent office. "Thomas believed work should be passion, not prison. But I couldn't risk losing another child." Maya sat down across from him. seeing the office with new eyes. Every empty desk represented someone who had gone home safely. Every moment of forced rest was a life preserved. The inefficiency she had railed against was actually the most efficient system of all, measuring success not in profits, but in heartbeats. "What if," Maya said carefully, "we could honor Thomas without imprisoning everyone? What if the rule could evolve?" Harrison looked at her with something approaching hope. Over the following weeks, Maya worked with Harrison to transform the office culture. The green lights were retired, replaced with a memorial garden in the company lobby dedicated to Thomas's memory. The rigid schedule was replaced with flexible hours and mandatory break reminders. The culture of fear gave way to open conversations about work-life balance. On the wall where the old green light policy used to hang, they installed a plaque with Thomas's photo and his favorite quote, "Work should fuel your life, not consume it." Maya watched her colleagues rediscover joy in their work, collaborating freely, leaving when their tasks were done, returning refreshed and creative. The company's productivity actually increased, but more importantly, people were happy. Harrison stopped by her desk one evening as she was packing up. "Thomas would have liked you," he said simply. "You cared enough to ask questions, but wise enough to understand the answers." Maya smiled, turning off her computer at a reasonable hour, something that had once seemed impossible. "I think he would have liked seeing his memorial become a celebration of life, rather than a monument to fear." As she walked past Thomas's memorial garden on her way out, Maya reflected on how the most incomprehensible rules often spring from the deepest love. Sometimes, what looks like corporate insanity is actually a parent's desperate attempt to keep the people they care about safe. The green lights were gone, but their true purpose lived on in every employee who went home healthy, every person who prioritized rest over relentless ambition, and every family that didn't have to face the devastating loss that had shaped 2 decades of corporate culture. In the end, Maya learned that efficiency isn't just about getting more done. It's about ensuring that the people doing the work get to enjoy the life their efforts make possible. Behind every bizarre workplace rule, there might be a story of love, loss, and the desperate human need to protect what matters most. The most powerful changes don't always come from breaking the rules, but from understanding why they existed in the first place. Sometimes the greatest act of rebellion is showing compassion for the pain that created the very system you're trying to change. Maya had come to InnoCorp to challenge inefficiency, but she left having learned something far more valuable: that the heart of any organization isn't found in its policies or productivity metrics, but in the human stories that shape every decision, every rule, and every green light that guides people safely home. What workplace rule seemed completely ridiculous to you until you learned the real story behind it? Have you ever discovered that something you thought was pointless actually had a deeper meaning? Share your experience in the comments below. Sometimes the most annoying policies hide the most heartbreaking truths. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories that will change how you see the world. Ring the notification bell so you never miss a story that could completely shift your perspective. Which part of Maya's discovery shocked you the most? Was it finding Thomas's story or realizing what the green lights really meant? Let us know what you think, and don't forget to share this with someone who might need to hear that there's always more to the story than meets the eye.